Gumboots, they are swell.
You're not in Guatemala now, Dr. Robita.
Ready to knock. Turn the lock.
Miranda! Whoa!
We're taking that card in the car.
Tonight, the greatest Kiwi home movie ever. The gayest Kiwi food ever. The funniest farmer ever.
This is not very good pasture at all because it's too damp.
And Paul Holmes with an afro.
Have you done anything exciting today?
Hello, I'm Rhys Darby. Peter Jackson, he's done pretty well, hasn't he? Those Lord of the Rings films, so massive overseas. Well, same size here, but, you know, very popular. It's got to the point now where that British guy, Jay Token or something, he's written books. Just sort of cashing in, really, on the whole Pete thing, but, yeah, not as good. Hey, before LOTR, as I like to call it, Pete made this.
It's the greatest example of Kiwi DIY since Richard Pearce built a plane and flew it into a hedge.
Bad Taste is a fantastic movie. There's no movie which we should be prouder of as a nation.
To me, Bad Taste is always going to be the greatest home movie ever made.
A tale of cannibalistic aliens, Bad Taste was Peter Jackson's first feature, but it wasn't meant to be.
It was going to be a 10-minute short which we'd screen at the Wellington Film Festival, and we thought it'd take us about 6 weeks to film. It'd be a hell of a lot of fun. I just wonder if we knew what an epic it would turn out to be, whether we'd all been so enthusiastic.
You three, kill them.
The film was shot on weekends over 4 years.
All sorts of stuff was going on. Someone got cancer, there was a death, and there were 2 nervous breakdowns. There was 1 marriage, 2 divorces.
And no money.
When we started, we had a hand-wound camera that could only shoot for 30 seconds, and that pretty much dictated how we could film, what we could film.
They're very, very basic. It's like a spring-loaded motor. You've got to wind it up.
Jackson's entire production was from scratch, from the equipment used to shoot to the special effects.
It's a puppet. So the mouth goes...
There was no holds barred. If we'd stopped to think about framing shots and continuity, it just wouldn't be the same.
Self-funded, self-made and self-indulgent, Bad Taste gave us one of the most memorable scenes in Kiwi cinema.
The bazooka just fires a rocket right through the house.
Someone needed to blow up a sheep at some point.
He just blew the sheep up.
I remember seeing Bad Taste for the first time. I just sat there absolutely astounded for the whole time, thinking, what the hell?
Remember this? It was the biggest song of '84. It put Patia on the map with its cattle trucks and rural ghettoland glam.
Patia Māori Club with their Poye song, I absolutely love it. It just makes you want to get up and do that dance.
It's a classic song.
But there's really only one thing everyone remembers about the video.
The guy doing the robot on top of the marae.
That guy with the white gloves and he's doing all that.
Quite possibly the only person ever to bop in a waka, Joe Moana may have done more for breakdancing in New Zealand than any other.
Now, every kid that grew up in my neighbourhood was into breakdancing. When Poye came out, man, that was so cool. You know, just to see, whoa, someone's doing it. And, you know, we didn't have, like, video recorders to tape it, so we'd try and memorise the moves when he came on, but he was pretty good. I wonder where him do they go.
Like the song, Joe was a one-hit wonder. He disappeared like a gloved ghost.
I'll tell you a funny story. He was Oscar's best friend. Oscar Cartley's best friend, this guy. Party in my club. And you know what? I heard he died.
There's this kind of urban legend about Joe Moana. I'd always heard that because in the video he danced up in the waka, that it was tapu and that he died because of it. But I've also heard that he lives in Aussie, so...
When you arrive in Fiji, you get a lei. When you arrive in the US, you get thumbprinted. When you arrive in Saudi Arabia, well, you get beheaded. And when you arrive in New Zealand, you get a small dog sniffing your bags. Get out of it. There's no fruit in there. Why is he going there then? I don't know. And if you're lucky, you get a porphyry.
And now the Queen's first experience of a traditional Maori reception.
There's nothing like a good pofity.
Ancient tradition must be honoured in full before the royal party become the guests of the host tribe of Ngāpuhi.
We've pofitied the royals senseless, and over the years we've held up countless VIPs, respectfully intimidating everyone from world leaders to pop stars. And if you're wondering what our visitors make of all this, well, you wouldn't be the first.
Welcome to New Zealand. What did you think of the Maori welcome? It was very impressive.
Well, the problem with when people come to New Zealand, right, the first question people ask,
what do you think of the place? Was it good? Did you enjoy it? Please? Huh? Yeah, come on. You liked it, eh?
Is there anything equal to this, or lion welcomes and things like that?
No, this is the most impressive.
I guess it's because we are this tiny little nation at the bottom of the world.
We want to be validated. That's the first thing we get. We get big artists and names coming over to New Zealand. It's the first thing. What did you think of our country? Please. Validate our existence as a nation.
It's so clean and green and beautiful. Please, say it is.
David, what did you think of that welcome?
Amazing. The answer is either, I love it, the people are great, or it's like, it's boring, where can I get a drink?
It was the most anticipated New Year's of all time, and we in God's Zone were going to be the first to see it. There were 2.5 billion people watching New Zealand, but there was a problem.
People worrying that on January the 1st at midnight on the year 2000, everything would go pop and there would be nothing left of the world.
This time next year, our cities could be hostile, uninhabitable ghost towns, according to those who are counting down to a Y2K disaster.
Never before had two letters and a digit combined so devastatingly in the cause of mass scaremongering.
Possible Y2K bug mayhem.
Law and order will break down.
It might not just affect computers either.
Countdown to meltdown.
Find out what could happen to you and your loved ones.
Everyone's afraid of losing their money with this Y2K problem.
And all because, essentially, the dating system, they had programmed into a lot of the code, the dating system only used the last 2 digits of the year, so there was no ability to have 00. The thinking was that lots of computer systems would just fail.
And so the moment of truth finally arrived. Yep, in the end, it was a bigger anticlimax than the Star Wars prequels and A Dry Route combined.
What a trip that was, eh? Damn, I really thought that something was going to happen.
It was a bit disappointing in the end, wasn't it?
It was really disappointing.
And there was a whole industry out there that had basically banked a lot of money on something happening, and nothing ended up happening.
I'd just run up so much debt thinking it was all going to get wiped.
The reason it didn't happen is because the computers had already taken over. They're ruling us now.
Y2K freaked a lot of people out, but I didn't let it ruin my New Year's Eve party. What? No, don't show that. Oh, here we go.
No, Phantom Menace was the best Star Wars yet. Oh, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Coming up, the slings and arrows of outrageous television. And why can't New Zealand films bloody well cheer up?
Well, we've done our best recently to become better dressed. Hey? But no matter how hard we try, we're still really just trying hard. Some of our successful designers have had some success, like Karen Walker, Pumpkin Patch, you know, those two, and others as well, but mainly those two. But at heart, I guess, you know, it's to be a Kiwi is to just dress like shit.
Before Before gays came out of the closet, straight men wore tight clothes with confidence, and few items were tighter or smaller than the classic stubbies shorts.
Yeah, stubbies are a bit of a fashion mistake.
Stubbies are essentially a dress for men, aren't they? I mean, there's no legs on those things. They're just a skirt that's joined up in the middle.
They're the small shorts for the big job.
A distant land-based relative of the seagoing Speedo, stubbies too have stuck in the popular imagination like a half-forgotten summer love.
Bring back the stubbies, I say. Short shorts. I like short shorts.
They did bring them back, but only to sell soft drink in this LNP campaign.
I have 4 pairs of stubbies and regularly buy stubbies.
Before you go all gooey with nationalistic nostalgia, just remember, stubbies were actually Australian.
Like a certain amount of our Kiwiana, that we really don't want to take credit for, we can blame on Australia.
These are my stubbies. Awesome. The thing about stubbies was that they needed, and the manufacturers were quite smart in putting these in. It's like a safety device. There's a little condom pocket there for putting a condom in, because wearing these, you're going to need one.
Being a nation overrun with sheep, New Zealanders often tend to act like them. We're highly suggestible and easily led, and before you throw the remote at the telly in disagreement, cast your mind back to this malarkey. Back in '95 and 2000, the nation went nuts for red socks, buying them in support of the America's Cup campaigns.
These are the dizzy heights of a disease that's taking over the country.
The disease started with Peter Blake wearing his lucky red socks on NZL 57. Then a mind-bending campaign was born. And the great New Zealand public responded. Everyone did their bit.
Even red socks on the police helicopter.
We look like a nation of bloody commies. And all in the name of a yacht race.
I hate when New Zealand gets so excited about sports that nobody else in the world gives a fuck about. It's like yachting it's just like a pretentious rich man's game. And then this dude starts selling red socks and basically making New Zealand pay for his hobby. So fuck off, dude.
I remember my uncle being furious because the red socks were not made from New Zealand wool.
Sam's uncle had a point. The socks were made in Korea, but the campaign worked and the rest is history.
At the time, I wasn't really interested in helping make the boat go faster or anything, but I bought some red socks, some of these, just because I thought that one day they might be worth a lot of money. Just thinking, is it wrong? Is it wrong to make money off a dead guy?
I never got the boat racing thing. I guess the America's Cup's a bit better than that round-the-world race. And the red boat's in second place. He's gaining on the race leader, though. They're only 8 months apart now. Anything could happen here. Let's check back in a couple of years when it might be a little bit more windy. Bogans are cool, eh? I love the way they swim in their jeans, drink beer and have barbecues in black jeans. Woo! And when it comes to crime, really organised.
New Zealand's favourite family is a bunch of criminals. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune have worked a treat with New Zealand audiences.
Me, I hadn't noticed.
Help me! The story of the Wests hit our screens in 2002 and soon found an audience, a big audience. But the question is, why?
I still don't truly know the answer to that. I think it is partly because there's nothing else like it on television. It's a bit rude and it's a bit coarse and people do things they shouldn't.
Oh, Christ.
Go in the garden.
But it's kind of safe. I think people like that.
West Auckland, a fabled field. Much is made of the West's westiness.
I like West Auckland because it has a kind of a slight lawlessness to it.
Get out of it, you mongrel!
But, you know, if the truth be known, it's actually where the studio is.
They used to send people to West Auckland as a place of exile. Judges used to actually send people out there to work in camps instead of putting them in prison.
The whole West Auckland community has kind of taken it on board and become proud of it.
On board and sometimes overboard. In 2008, a radio DJ gave out the address of the real outrageous fortune house. Fans descended, hoping for a glimpse into the West's home.
Of course, the set is not inside the house.
It may be about everyday Kiwis, but the way of the Westie is now delighting audiences around the world. And the format's been sold to the US.
Who's soft now, cock?
We're kind of putting a mirror up to ourselves and we see ourselves, and that's why I think it's so popular.
Let's be honest, New Zealand is a beautiful place with its mountains and its rivers. It's paradise down here. But you wouldn't know it looking at our films. In 1995, Sam Neill declared New Zealand's national film culture to be a cinema of unease.
If a national cinema is a reflection of ourselves, then ours is a troubled reflection indeed.
It sounded like pompous navel-gazing, but it turned out Sam had a bit of a point.
He hit the nail on the head because we had this awkward, quirky, dark, semi-gothic tone to our cinema in New Zealand.
Great movies and great books and everything, but always really depressing.
I definitely think there is something to it. We've always had this sense of isolation in our cinema.
Hello? Is anybody out there?
I think with films like Vigil, right through to Once We're Warriors, Whale Rider, The Piano, and Angel at My Table, those are the films we're most known for internationally. So obviously we do that well.
The theory is New Zealand films are really dark, and the old one-liner was, you know, they're that way because the cinema is empty and the lights are off.
It's true. We haven't always turned up to watch our darkest films, but we sure are proud of them. And we keep making them.
Those angst films here. And they're very popular with the funding bodies.
No doubt part of this obsession comes from the New Zealand landscape, whose vast haunting emptiness lends itself to cinema.
The landscape is very dark and impenetrable, as is the New Zealand psyche from time to time.
Well, the New Zealand landscape is terrific production value at a very reasonable price. You know, you just point a camera at it and there it is.
Making comedy's hard, you know. Making depressing films slightly easier, I think. We're going to keep making them.
Coming up, the MILF of the nation and New Zealand's most famous testicle.
He's the man who got his nutsack ripped and still played on.
Phil, Doog, Ange, Jude. Who can forget those great names? Who are they? Come on, you shouldn't be asking that. It's not a folk band. Here, I'll give you the surnames. Sherry, Stevenson, Diordney. Now you're getting it? Yeah. Bailey. That's right. Only one of these people became the mother of the nation.
Judy Bailey. She was our best-loved and most durable newsreader until they fired her.
She's pretty much loveliness personified.
She was the mother of the nation and maybe even the MILF of the nation.
Mother of the nation.
Bring back the mother of the nation.
They call her the mother of the nation. I thought that was for Cooper.
It's hard to say when Judy actually became the mother of the nation. In the early days of Top Half, she was more like your sister or a hot auntie.
You'd be hard pushed to beat our next story.
Mother of the nation. Oh, it makes me feel like I'm about 108, I can tell you. It's, I don't know where it came from.
Who cares where it came from? We loved her like a mother. All $800,000 of her. But when Mum's salary went public, there was a disturbance in the force.
A salary at that level, for the amount of time on air each day, I would consider evidence of a culture of extravagance.
The scandal put the 52-year-old in a rather unique position, reading her own story on the news.
A rows erupted between the government and the board of TVNZ over pay.
In a way, it was like an out-of-body experience. You know, I went completely into autopilot mode and just treated it like another story off the cue, you know, and just, I was shaking like a leaf.
As a newsreader, Judy had no equal.
As a newsreader, you have to be able to get meaning across. You have to be able to convey the essence of the story to the viewer, and I think Judy Bailey was really good at that.
But not good enough for the corporate druids at TVNZ. December 23rd, 2005 became the day the news died.
Take care of each other. Good night. Goodbye. Aroha.
I made sure I was tuned in for that last final broadcast, and I cried.
I don't know whether I got the biff because I was getting a bit old, a bit long in the tooth maybe. Perhaps so. Who knows?
Here's a true story about Judy Bailey, mother of the nation. There was one TV awards that she couldn't come to, so her husband came along to give a speech on her behalf. Introduced himself at the beginning going, "Hi, Judy can't be here. I'm her husband. I guess that makes me the motherfucker of the nation. Everyone went...
They are the three most charged words in the English language. No, not I love you. Bring back Buck.
Bring him back. That's all I've got to say.
Buck Shelford. The guy is honestly the hardest rugby player we've ever had.
You know, Buck Shelford, if you got into a staring competition with him, your eyes would blow up. That's how legendary the man is.
Buck, or Wayne Shelford, was our most successful All Blacks captain.
While he was captain of the All Blacks, he never lost a test.
And yet, despite his impressive achievements, Buck was always more famous for one particular part of his anatomy.
Testicle?
Yeah.
I'll say it. Testicle?
Yeah.
He lost his testicle?
He's the man who got his nutsack ripped and still played on.
He also lost 4 teeth and his memory of the match, but the point is Buck played on into popular legend.
Every Māori boy who has ever picked up a rugby ball either wanted to be Buck Shelford or wanted to be Buck Shelford's son.
So why did they fire him?
He's not playing to the form that we know Buck Shelford can.
The excuses just didn't wash. We wanted Buck in the ruck. I feel a campaign coming on.
Bring back Buck, it was just nice. Rolled off the tongue, made a good billboard.
Sure, it didn't work, but we didn't care. It had a nice ring to it.
Because it appeared everywhere. It became quite just something to write on a billboard if you had no more ideas. Like it was a cricket game.
I just think it's fun for Kiwis to wave signs at rugby games with a word that rhymes with, you know, but it's Buck.
Some animals are better than others for riding, like horses, you would have noticed. Elephants, also very good for riding, especially in the jungle. At a push, you could probably ride a cow if you had to. Ride the cow, all right. I've ridden a sheep, don't ask. Some animals are inappropriate for riding, like alligators or snakes. You know, you're wasting your time there. And some are just utterly impossible because they live under the sea.
It's actually illegal to ride a whale in New Zealand, but this was different.
Whale Rider. Loved it. Great film. Beautiful film. Great film. Would have been better if I was in it.
I said to my agent, oh my God, I really want this role because this film is going to do it.
It did do it. You couldn't get a better story about the romance of Māori mythologies.
I've always found the proposition that a man can ride a whale to New Zealand an absolutely magnificent event. So I wrote the story because I loved the myth.
It's a wonderful fairy tale that's very relatable, and it tapped into a bit of a gap in the market, which was stories about young girls and female empowerment.
Critically acclaimed, this was box office taonga too.
Whale Rider's given me an international profile and I've got a lot of work out of it, and I'm still getting work out of Whale Rider.
But Whale Rider was all about one girl.
It's okay, Paka.
The film garnered an Oscar nomination for 13-year-old Keisha Castle-Hughes, a girl plucked from obscurity after a long search.
We went round a lot of schools. A lot of schools.
When we workshopped with her on a weekend down in Gisborne, there was a moment where I knew that we had the girl that was going to turn this film into a big, huge hit.
This speech is a token of my deep love and respect for Koro Apirana.
With Keisha, there was this reserve, at the same time a challenge when I asked her questions, and at the same time there was this feeling that she'd stand up for herself. All elements that we needed for Pi.
Answer me, Pi. She was a remarkable person to work with on set, and without her we didn't have the film. Thank God we did have her.
In the 1970s, it wasn't possible to be any gayer than Hudson and Halls.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to everybody in the audience.
They were gay on television when it was still illegal to be gay in New Zealand.
You're determined to get in the act, aren't you?
We'd never seen a cooking show quite like it.
Hurry, get on.
I'm trying to, Pete. It's not easy.
We'd never seen a TV show quite like it.
Now,
It was the top rating show on television in New Zealand.
Peter Hudson and David Halls made their own special relationship into a performance.
Don't interrupt me.
They sort of niggled at each other all the time.
And
Put
don't
do
let
another
the
one,
pan.
because I want to toss one. I like
Well,
tossing
toss them in your own pan. This
I
is
can't.
nice.
It's got electric cords on it.
It was like they were this completely old married couple.
I hope it goes right over your head. Oh, isn't it like this?
You saw two men who got along together, who had a laugh together. People just accepted that these two men were companions.
Would you shut up?
If you're in the entertainment industry, you can get into people's hearts and change their minds, which is what Hudson and Hall did.
I don't want to set the world on fire.
They were very good at what they did. They were entertainers more than they were chefs.
Very sprightly, very nicely dressed, a little bit camp, but a lot of amusing jokes about, have you still got that thing in the oven? Well, pull it out.
Oh, and there was food too. Proper food. The stuff that can kill you.
Crepes with 2 cheeses and crepes with cream chicken.
150 grams of melted butter. They're all covered in the butter and sugar.
Put the 60 grams of toasted cheddar and the 60 grams of blue vein into that.
I cooked one of the meals the other night, and it's safe to say that my cholesterol has gone through the ceiling.
But like all our talented fish, Hudson and Halls left for a bigger pond.
Well, all the best, boys.
Thanks, Mavis.
And a nice big kiss.
Thank you, and one back to you.
Thank you. Bye.
There's a couple.
In the UK, the show faltered. Peter died of prostate cancer, and David followed not much later.
Straight people that I know of the older generation have said, oh yes, the other one died of a broken heart, which really shows that straight people have come to accept that gay people have the capacity to love.
Coming up, find out who invented chur.
You started chur?
Yeah.
You started chur?
Yeah.
It's Kiwi catchphrases, and why farming is the funny bone of the country.
Electrica Friday, C4.
There's been a lot of really cool vehicles that have become the stars of movies and TV shows. The DeLorean in Back to the Future, the Dodge Charger in Dukes of Hazzard, and of course any one of the James Bond cars. So what did we get as our superstar car? A Mini? Yeah, that's right, a Mini. A yellow one, little yellow Mini.
It was the little yellow Mini that could, in the little New Zealand road movie that could. Goodbye Pork Pie.
It just arrived at the right moment, had the right sort of energy, and it just took off.
I love Goodbye Pork Pie. I think it's got a lot of cheeky energy, lots of really dodgy sexual innuendos. Is that cop pulling out?
Stop! No, don't stop!
Is that cop pulling out?
It was just this joyful, hilarious, kind of anarchic, great roller coaster ride of a movie. And it was the first New Zealand movie that had ever kind of taken you to those places.
We're taking this bloody car to Invercargill, boys!
Goodbye Pork Pie started at Kaitaia and ended in Invercargill. And that was a deliberate ploy to get as much of the country on the screen as you could.
Everyone got to see their town in the film, and that would have been a novelty.
Goodbye Pork Pie was an amazing experience.
So with a very small crew, we could be extremely efficient. But it was also harrowing when we shot it in 6.5 weeks.
And we made it for like $300,000 or something stupid like that.
So we had to do all the driving ourselves as well as the shooting.
It was a very, very hard film to make.
It was extremely exhausting.
But it paid off. Goodbye Pork Pie set box office records.
Yeah, it was up there with Star Wars and Jaws and, you know, it was like that sort of box office.
I want to drive a little yellow Mini. I want to be Goodbye Pork Pie.
Over the years, a few strange utterances on the box have caught the public's imagination. Sometimes this is the result of sheer repetition. There was...
Nice one!
That was in the 70s. And in the 80s, McPhail Gadsby gave us...
Jeez, Wayne. And for some reason, that phrase caught on.
Obviously, you had to be there. And maybe you were for this.
Thousands of luminous spheres. All thousands of luminous spheres.
But for the best Kiwi catchphrases, go no further than one of our most famous families.
Please welcome Sir Howard and Tinueta Morrison. Yeah!
The Morrisons of Rotorua. Sir Howard got the ball rolling back in the day with...
Chur. The chur.
Did you start chur?
Yeah.
You started chur?
Yeah. Jerry and I started chur.
Dr. Ropata, is it?
Yeah.
Later, Howard's nephew Tim got caught up in another quotable quote.
I don't know what I've got, but I end up in these funny kind of movies or TV shows, and there's always some kind of quote, and this one came out of episode 1.
You're not in Guatemala now, Dr. Ropata.
Well, you're not in Guatemala now, Dr. Ropata.
For some reason, just that line.
You're not in Guatemala now, Dr. Ropata.
The way Nurse Carrie did it to Dr. Ropata in that first episode just stuck. I think maybe it stuck for the wrong reasons at first, because it was kind of, I think it was used as an example of, oh dear, what if we got ourselves into a nation?
Less than a year later, Tim would become inextricably linked to another phrase, but this time it was his line.
Cook the man some eggs.
Cook the man some eggs.
Always got to have a turning point in a movie where something drastically goes wrong, and bang, from that moment there...
You want eggs?
Ooh, I even shudder just thinking about it.
We'll have the bloody lot of them!
I remember having breakfast in a cafe in Queenstown once, and Tim Morrison walked in, and we had a little chat, and we asked him if he wanted to stay for breakfast. We had to shoot off, but just before he left, he turned around to us and he said, "Oh, I was about to ask the waitress if she wanted to cook me some eggs," and we all went, "What?"
Here's a sporting catchphrase for you. You don't have much use for that one in New Zealand. It's for soccer, when you score a goal, and the All Whites, you know, they don't score too many, except in 1982, when they scored a couple of goals! Oh no, you missed.
We never really gave a proverbial about football because we were never really very good. But in the early 1980s, the planets aligned, the footballing gods smiled upon us, and by some miracle, New Zealand qualified for the World Cup.
You've got to realise as well, in 1981, with the Springboks tour and all the dramas surrounding that, rugby was on a real downer. Now all of a sudden, you know, here's these guys kicking this football around, going to the World Cup. The country absolutely went berserk.
No team has ever made it to the Soccer World Cup and played as many matches in the lead-up in as many different countries as our 1982 Soccer World Cup team.
The road to Spain was long and arduous, with enough drama for 10 World Cups.
That is not a scene that we wanted to see.
There was the 13-0 drubbing of Fiji.
Oh, in the net!
And the unforgettable clash with Kuwait and its venal ref.
That did seem to be very, very harsh indeed by the referee.
All of a sudden, the ref from Indonesia blows his whistle. Penalty.
Another handball given on the edge of the area.
Kuwaitis, as surprised as we are, they scored. But just before that incident, obviously there's a spectator, you know, he's run on the field, there's a can of drink.
We got a spectator on the field throwing something at the referee. Oh dear, this we did not want to see.
Expectations of the All Whites at the tournament itself were naturally low. But that just made our small triumphs monumental.
Roofer, not too many opportunities.
Steve Sumner's goal against Scotland, with its ball-snatching epilogue, is etched on the memories of a generation of Kiwi sports fans.
Just to score at the World Cup was unreal.
For the players, the finals were a chance to shoulder barge greatness.
As the Brazilians, they had one of the greatest teams ever that didn't win a World Cup.
And Zico! What a cracker!
You know, Zico, Socrates, Falcao. It was just a sensational team.
Group 6 was known as the Pool of Death, and sure enough, New Zealand ended up floating face down. Italy won the cup, but New Zealand would have something far better. Commemorative biscuit tins. Ask anyone and they'll tell you New Zealand's best exports come from the farm. And here's one of our finest, a certain character called Fred Dagg, New Zealand's first comic icon.
Fred Dagg is what a lot of rural New Zealand identify with.
Turn the separator off!
He looked like your average Kiwi, he talked like your average Kiwi.
Thank you very much. Get out, you rot!
Fred Dagg was the first funny New Zealander I ever saw on TV. I remember going to primary school and suddenly making jokes about gumboots.
Gumboots, they are wonderful. Gumboots, they are swell. Because they keep out the water and they keep in the smell.
It was like half my uncles and my grandfather all mixed into one.
7 words for your gumboots, so where would you be? You'd be in the hospital or infirmary.
New Zealanders loved seeing this recognisable version of themselves on TV.
You've got to turn the whole thing upside down.
Fred's TV specials were popular and best-selling albums followed.
I mean, Fred Dagg was an expert on pretty well anything he was asked about, but he manifestly knew nothing about any of the subjects.
This is not very good pasture at all because it's too damp.
What I was doing really was a character rather than content. The content was just a place where you could do the character.
These are the sides of the vehicle. And, well, that's about all there is to it, really. It's a pity I can't get it going for you. But, sit down!
The sound of it was quite important. A lot of people think that television's a visual medium, but the sound is terribly important. So the language was going to be important. The voice register was going to be important.
Sit down! Now, this is the hubcap. That's just in case we take the machine to town.
Fred would do the thing that I'd seen a whole lot of other people do before, which was say yes, but say it about 4 different ways. You know, so,
yeah, g'day. This is the...
He wouldn't have said anything yet, but we were already watching the standard rural choreography that I had seen so many times before. It's about human contact.
Get in behind! Righto, kick it in the guts, Trev.
Not shearing this year, and we're putting back onto the sheep the wool we took off them in the previous year.
There hadn't been a lot of New Zealand characters on television, so it was a very fresh sound to hear on television.
Get out of there!
He really made New Zealand comedy acceptable.
I consider him to be the father of New Zealand comedy.
We don't know how lucky we are.
There was a bit of a fuss about Fred Dagg when he first went on, and there were questions asked in the Parliament about whether it was appropriate. But the audience liked it, so the genie was out of the bottle.
We don't know how lucky we are. He's a man of unprecedented genius, and now those bloody Aussies see him twice a week.
Coming up, the world's only Māori pickup truck, and Paul Holmes does Michael Jackson.
Up next on C4.
Overseas people, always after the next big thing, aren't they? Been to Canada? Oh, yeah, wore the Crocs. Yeah, put the Crocs on. What about Italy? Oh, biscotti. Can't get enough of that. Yeah, love it. China? Yep, chasing the dragon there most of the time, yeah. What about New Zealand? Oh, what have your natives got to offer?
We love it when celebrities deign to brand themselves with the art of Aotearoa. They're taking a little bit of New Zealand out into the world. Sure, Robbie.
Just basically his own story on his skin.
But it's different when big, bad corporations get in on the act. When Ford made the world's first Māori pickup truck, tangata whenua balked.
Once we got into the Māori culture, we realized that there was strength, and there was also the whole concept of warriors that were behind it. And we thought, wow, that has an awful lot to do with what our trucks really mean.
Oh, I get it. It's a warrior truck. Here it goes, off to the marae.
People are appropriating bits of Māori culture because they think that it enhances the brand value and the market potential of their particular product. Māori is very hot. Māori have a very hot image internationally.
That is hot, kind of. But what would Kupe or Maui think?
Māori people aren't saying you can't do this. What we're saying is, actually, if there was a discussion going on, a relationship built, we could actually work together.
Some corporations have sought consultation, but something's got lost in translation.
What we really liked about Maori tradition and Maori art was the tattoos and the markings, and we felt that when you put those on to a warrior, he immediately looks tougher.
When Bottle Rocket Entertainment created their PlayStation game Mark of Cree, Māori designs were the inspiration.
You know, the tattoo on Rao's face just looked so good. And I don't think any of us really realised the significance of it.
For years, my master had trained at the side of Ba'umusa, a noble warrior.
So they find this warrior, they give him a Māori name, they give him a female moko, and, you know, they make truckloads of money.
Oh, well, at least Mike Tyson got it right, sort of. Before Peter Jackson brought Hollywood to New Zealand, Kiwi directors had to go to Hollywood to make it big, just like everyone else.
New Zealand directors being successful in Hollywood, there's a very simple reason for that.
it's because they left New Zealand.
Wherever films are made in English, the magnetic force of Hollywood is both measurable and problematic. Already New Zealand has lost many of its best.
It's kind of an extension of the whole New Zealand OE thing. It's a need to go out there and prove yourself.
You'd be amazed how many films you didn't know were made by Kiwis. This gratuitous explosion, this boring courtroom scene, this improbable action sequence, this flying talking donkey.
That's right, fool. Now I'm a flying talking donkey.
Even this blowjob and these breasts were all directed by New Zealanders.
Very nice. The quintessential director who's a work-for-hire guy would be, you know, the young gun himself, Jeff Murphy.
Jeff Murphy was among the vanguard of Kiwi directors who first cut a track to Hollywood in the 80s and 90s, impressing with their work ethic and versatility.
We all put ourselves on the side of the road, you know, directing stuff. And I think that's got a lot to do with it. And the fact that you grow as a filmmaker rather than a director and you understand every aspect.
Hollywood has been a high-priced holy grail for some Kiwi filmmakers.
When you wreck a £160,000 Aston Martin, there's another one standing nearby to take over from it, which you cannot do in New Zealand.
But it's also proved to be a poisoned chalice.
You tend to be more part of a big machine there, and it has its advantages and it has its disadvantages.
It's the fiercest director market in the world. It's hard to keep working on it. I think I did pretty damn well. I didn't make a lot of very good films, though.
Sendak, what the hell's going on?
Because it's a sausage machine for the marketplace.
One of the best sausages was Murphy's Free Jack, starring Mick Jagger.
We're not stopping until we hit a security zone. It's a fun picture, you know, it's not a particularly intellectual picture with a New Zealand director.
The biggest problem going into Hollywood films was understanding the culture.
Don't do it.
You'd go to a meeting on casting and you know that joke about there's 3 actresses for the job, one's Shakespearean, one's got an Academy Awards, and which one gets the part? And the punchline is the one with the biggest tits, you know. That's true.
Haircuts rarely make pop culture, but a perm did. In 1983, former All Black Graham Thorne turned up at his job as a presenter with a new look. It was the talk of the town. Another style is the white man's afro. Quite hard to pull off, but if you can do it, it's your duty. Paul Holmes did his bit, but he gets on our list for other reasons.
He made a career out of pissing some people off in order to entertain others.
Thank you very much for having me.
But would you be interested in apologising to Mr. Farr?
Paul Holmes is New Zealand broadcasting royalty, complete with the occasional madness of King George III. Who could forget Holmes versus the United Nations?
That Kofi Annan, I've got to say to you, he's been a very cheeky darky overnight. He's been a very cheeky darky.
I don't think he really meant anything by saying that. It just came out and got taken badly.
But you know you're a good broadcaster when your lowlights are just as good as your highlights.
I was trying to shock, I was trying to provoke. I was tired. It didn't work. I have apologised.
Holmes has been charming us on the wireless for years.
Carol, whereabouts are you calling from, Carol? Listen, in Nainai, listen, is that a fairly exciting place to live, Nainai?
Where his talents were obvious.
Have you done anything exciting today? Haven't you? Why not?
Over the years, there's been many Paul Holmes. Holmes the actor, Holmes the olive oil maker, Holmes the pilot, Holmes the dancer, even Holmes the singer.
Your big house is beautiful.
I was label mates with Paul Holmes, so I got a free copy. And that's all we did on this one New Zealand tour was just read his liner notes. And it's like, it's a voice forged by late nights, red wine, and a few regrets.
But I just want to lie.
What are you saying? It's terrible.
You're quite excited about this, aren't you?
I am excited, yeah. Yeah, it's quite groovy.
No longer a fixture at 7 p.m, Holmes is still pulling big audiences, if with questionable deeds.
We were at the after party for Dancing with the Stars, and my grandmother went up to him and was telling him how much she loved him and that all her friends loved him, and all of a sudden I turned around and they're pashing.
But that's only a snippet of the Paul Holmes story. To get the full details, try his autobiography. When she came back, she sat down and handed me something in a closed fist. It was her underwear. Ooh. Nice. Well, that's it for this week. Goodbye. Ooh. Oh, that's a lie. Come on, mate.
Next week,
Telethon was a roller coaster of craziness.
Oh, that's disgusting. Why would you put that in there?
Thanks, New Zealand On Air.
Two degrees and their giant blue logo were